Welcome back to Glow Up or Get Out. I'm half of the podcast, Mel.
And I'm the other half, Sam.
Hey guys, what's up? So when you're listening to this, it's probably the new year.
Yes.
Apologies if my voice sounds funny. I was sick and still like phlegmy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, for the month of January, we're kind of doing like I don't want to say like self-help type.
Because like the whole podcast, we're like...
Yeah. But I think it's just more in line with kind of like new year, let's get ourselves together kind of a thing.
We're just hitting topics hard.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of connected in its own way.
Right.
So
to start us off, we have a book that we've been reading for the last couple of months. It was an easy read. It just took us a minute because life is busy and
you know.
We want
to give you guys time to read it. So if you haven't read it yet and you want to read it before hearing our thoughts, I would recommend you do so.
Right.
You could probably finish it in like 2 days if you really wanted to. But also absorbing it, it's probably better to read it a little slower.
Yeah.
So
the book is Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday and
Yes.
Other Advice on Love, Sex, and Dating by Nick Viall. If you guys don't know who Nick Viall is, he is an ex-bachelor.
Yes, Bachelor Nation alum, alumni, whatever they call people that are in the franchise. But yeah, he has a podcast called The Viall Files, and did you find it first? I don't remember.
I can't remember. One of us found it.
And then we started listening to it, and he basically just gives advice to real people. It's giving like Ryan's Roses, but real. And not scripted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think his advice was intriguing on the podcast, so we were like, I wonder what this book is going to have in it. And without giving too much away, I feel like anyone could read the book, and there's some things that maybe don't pertain to you at the moment or maybe never will in the future, but maybe your friends will be going through it, or I don't know, dude. People are dating through all aspects of their life, so yeah. I think it's a good read for anyone.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I feel like he makes a good point of talking about how dating is not just for like young 20-year-olds. Mm-hmm. It's like...
And women that need to be reading this specifically. Even though that's his audience, he's like, I haven't chosen it as my audience. Right. It's just who's interested.
Right.
So.
And yeah, I think it was really interesting to see male perspective on dating as well.
Mm-hmm. We'll say this is not probably the majority of heterosexual men's thinking out there, which is unfortunate. But he helps you kind of work through it. Even people who have the best of intentions, even ourselves who have the best of intentions, he said we still be fuckboys.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. We're human. And I don't know. It's just like very insightful.
I think so too.
So let's get into it. We did some polls on our stories. If you don't follow us, Glow Up or Get Out on Instagram. And we asked you guys a few questions. So first one, do you enjoy relationship or self-help books? 88% of you said yes. Very interesting. If not, why? So the people who said no, I did kind of phrase this aggressively, but one option was I'm an expert at my own life. No one chose that. I learn by living. I just can't get into books or other. And the other 3 options were split between everyone. So it just kind of seemed like people were kind of indifferent, or they're just like, I'm just going to do me.
Right.
Are you currently single? 17% of people single. No one is dating right now. And 83% of you are in a relationship.
Nice.
Okay, got it.
I will say that this book, being in a relationship, was still really insightful. Not necessarily
on your current
to fix any issues of my current relationship, but it was interesting to see how I could relate to it in terms of like when I was dating or even getting into this relationship that I'm currently in. Just very much seeing myself in those situations was like really interesting. So
yeah, I could see that. I could. Have you ever texted your ex happy birthday? 27% of you said yes. Okay. Most of you said no.
Okay, good for you. The fuck?
Okay, I would like to know stories on that, quite honestly. I want to know more. Do you know what traits make a fuckboy a fuckboy? 78% of you said yes. Okay. And then we asked for traits. Off the top of your head, we got a couple responses. Number 1 being a liar.
Just straight up lying.
Lying. That's accurate. I could see that. Next one, doesn't text until the evening or when it's convenient for them.
Interesting.
Okay, I think that's it.
And we'll get into how that is actually
Fuckboy behavior.
fairly relatable to what you're saying. Yeah.
Have you been a willing participant in a situationship? 80% of you said yes.
Damn.
I mean, he defines situationship
In a way that's very, like, it can
It's
happen
common.
to anybody.
Yeah, it's common.
Yeah.
Have you ever slid into someone's DMs? 100% yes. I love that for our
Go shooting your shot.
Everybody's shooting their shot, no fear. Do first dates make you nervous? 70% said yes, which I think is normal. Are you considering moving in with your partner? 44% said yes. 22% said no, and then not applicable for 33% of the people. So that makes sense. But yeah, those were the questions we asked, and it was honestly just to get us, like, give us a feeler for where our audience is at and how much you know about relationships and advice and fuckboys.
Yeah.
And texting your ex. Why?
If any of, like, the questions we had asked relate or you want to know more of, keep watching this or listening or even just go and read the book. I think we'll give you, like, our final thoughts on the book at the very end of this episode. But we're clearly talking about it, so I think we, like, at least like it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or got some information from it. So let's just...
Oh, even if you answered something like, oh yeah, I know what the traits of a fuckboy are. He defines it, like, specifically that there's 4? The 4 traits, and then 5 of a player? Like, come on. Who doesn't need this kind of inside information?
Yeah, we'll get into, like, all of that.
Specifics.
So just...
Sit tight. Where do we want to start? Dude, okay, I underlined... The first line I underlined in the book. No one will lie to you more than you lie to yourself.
Dude.
That's facts.
Similar to that, I highlighted, it's changing your behavior and holding yourself accountable to do what you know is best for you. It requires being vulnerable and opening yourself up to rejection or confrontation. I think one of the first things, I think it's literally chapter 2, is talking about something that he named his picker. And this concept was really cool because, like, I feel like we all kind of think about it in a way where when you're dating and you have, like, quote unquote unsuccessful relationships or you have a breakup, let's just say,
or they do the same thing to you over and over, all these people.
You think you have, like, a picker that's broken or, like, a picker that isn't good. And he goes over this concept in a way that's really, I think it's hopeful. And it's, like, saying, like, you know, it's just because you just gotta realign yourself.
Yeah, you gotta realize what you're looking for and stop like, so much of the book is about your mindset and you and not about other people.
Yeah.
Which I think is important because I feel like you could read the 4 traits of a fuckboy, which we'll get to, but, like, you could read that and be like, oh, other people, like, what do I need to look for?
Yeah.
But really it's like, I need to be, like, trustworthy of myself and be like, oh, I can see that you're just not a good person for me. So
yeah.
Bye.
And to that concept, he, like, he just makes it a point to say that, like, you have to train your picker. And that's just really just, like, training yourself and allowing yourself to make mistakes, but then also, like, learning from the mistakes and not just allowing it to continue to happen.
Because then you can just blame other people forever.
Right.
Like, my picker is bad, I just pick bad people. It's like, well,
like, people are just bad and I pick them on some, like, off chance. Like, that's not how it works, you know?
Right.
So to get into, I think, the next part, unless you have something else that you highlighted, it's the fuckboy stuff.
Yeah, I just really liked this. Everyone has the potential to be a fuckboy, even you. So, like,
so true.
I honestly, it kind of woke me up to it. I was like, oh, you're telling me I've been a fuckboy to somebody. Yeah.
I think at some point everyone has
done some fuckboy stuff
to somebody else.
It's basically just being selfish in, like, kind of a slightly fucked up way.
In a way that's, like, you're not being communicative about your real intentions.
Or just, like, you're just blunt with it, like, for no damn reason. Or you're lying to yourself about what your intentions are too.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just like you're not being truthful about your intentions, either to yourself or somebody else. That's what a fuckboy is. So, to get into it, the 4 traits of a fuckboy, in the words of Nick Viall. So the 4 traits are: 1, they are inconsistent. 2, they don't make plans in advance. 3, they always make excuses as to why they don't want a relationship with you. And 4, they usually tell you the truth. So, God.
So that's like loaded right there. We don't want to like get into them too hard because then you guys won't read the book and I don't know. But I think the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
Inconsistent, don't make plans in advance, and that's like very much plans in advance for me has been such an issue. I don't understand, like, they don't even...
Okay, also, like, before we started, like, reading this book so intentionally, like,
yes.
Sam has been going through, like, what she just said, like, and I feel like it's just much easier now for me to be like, bitch.
He's being inconsistent.
He's being inconsistent.
He's being a fuckboy.
And I feel like that's just something that comes up a lot with, like, friends who are dating. Like, the lack of effort is just so real. And I'm like, do you want somebody who's so fucking inconsistent? Or, like, the initiative is, like, a need?
It's just convenience. You become a person out of convenience.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would make excuses like, I'm okay with that for dating. Like, not seriously dating, casually dating people. Because I'm like, I don't really need to be a priority. And I don't need to, like you. But, like, now that I'm really getting into it, I'm like, why am I wasting time on people who don't prioritize me even in small ways? Like, sure, we could be casually dating and both agree we're not going to seriously see each other ever or whatever the case is. But, like, at least have the decency to make a plan with me and to respect my time.
Yeah.
That's bare minimum.
Bare minimum is just make an effort to make a plan.
Exactly.
Period.
So that's on plans. Oh, they always make excuses as why they don't want a relationship with you. I feel like this one's easy to be a fuckboy. Like, but also like it's a two-way street on all of this. You're complicit in letting them tell you, I don't want a relationship with you because X, Y, and Z, and you sit there and hope they're gonna change their mind.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen, babe. And I will say too, it's not that they don't want a relationship, it's that they don't want one with you. That's
all. Okay, he's hella fucking blunt in this book.
So blunt.
In a way that I feel like
it's like Big Brother love.
It's just like, you gotta fucking you need to read the facts. Like, it's literally
put
written
the track
on their
record down.
Forehead. It's just there. Yeah, so I don't know. You're right. It's a lot about the fact that it's just, you're not the one for them. And that's
like,
okay.
I feel like it resonates with me because I'm like, I'm seeing people and I'm telling them I don't want a serious relationship, but in reality, I just don't want a serious relationship with them.
Because if the right person came
along, I would totally be like, you're amazing.
I feel like nobody would turn down actually somebody that they actually wanted.
Right.
Like, at least
they don't want you.
And we'll get into that, like, little situationship where, like, maybe if you, like, tell them your feelings and then things, like, turn out good for you.
Yeah.
There might be a moment where, like, they don't realize your worth or whatever. But on, like, the majority basis, the general population, like, if it's not,
but also,
not it.
This book gives you so many tips of, like, where your head should be at when approaching different situations that you will get the outcome that you maybe not want but deserve. Yeah. So, like, if you're with this fuckboy and you're like, I really like him, but he keeps telling me he doesn't want a relationship with me, and I just told you, yeah, he just doesn't want one with you. Right, whatever. And, like, you're gonna actually make changes in your own life to basically push him away, and then it becomes his choice or her.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about fuckboys, so just general. But then, you know, if you do the right things and they are meant to be, then it'll be.
Exactly.
Then they'll decide they want you because that's what they wanted. I don't know. It's like so.
The last part of number 4 for it, just like really, I like, this is like parts where I'm like, I went back into my own brain and my own like,
oh my god.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, yeah, I wish I fucking really just saw it that way. I mean, I see it that way now.
Yeah.
But just to like read it again in a way that's like very blunt and straightforward was like fucked up.
Said,
but
I guess I
like,
should have just listened.
So like the last one is that they usually tell you the truth,
which is the opposite of being a liar.
Yes.
So
no.
Sounds confusing.
The thing is okay, let me read the part that I like highlighted. It says, for some reason, many of us have no problem lying to ourselves and then lying to them and saying same when we actually really want something serious. So next time someone says how great they think you are or how much they love you, but they just don't want anything serious, believe every word they say.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was single or like in a situationship with a fuckboy, I feel like it was always a thing where I was like, they just saying that they don't want one now with
But
me,
later.
but maybe later, or like I'm so great that I can change their mind, or it's just like I definitely like would make myself believe that I didn't want one either, but I was catching feelings and
Right.
not being truthful with myself when they were literally telling me it's not going to happen. Literally believe it from the moment that they say it, that that's what's real.
Because then you carry into a relationship with a fuckboy. Let's say you convince them for the gag of it to be together or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it turns into the lying, the deceit, because they didn't ever want to be with you. And now they have to fucking lie to you about everything else.
Yeah.
Love that.
So now
for
the
us.
difference between a player and a fuckboy. I also found that was really interesting to come across, because you would think they're one and the same, right?
Dude, I wish I had this a year and a half ago. Like,
It would have saved you some time.
I shit you not. I would have been like, check, check, check. This is ridiculous.
The boxes check out.
Whew. Okay. Number 1, they have a history of cheating. Cute. Lots of people warn you about them. They constantly objectify women. They gaslight you. And lastly, they love bomb you. Yo, that is just ridiculous. Okay, well, let's start with just the history of cheating. Come on. We all want to have the benefit of the doubt, but let's just stop doing that. It's gotten us nowhere. Because it's also about how they say it, and it's just, for me, it's a no. It's a deal breaker right there. But
non-negotiable. Another word we'll go into.
yes. Lots of people warn you about them. That's scary. That one's, why am I trusting this complete stranger over these other complete strangers? You know what I mean? Why?
That one hurts.
Just why? Okay. They constantly objectify women. I mean, that one's pretty specific.
I feel like that one's specific to the way that we view players already, of like women
Just
are
being
just like
womanizers and
yeah.
Which there could be nuances of that without
True.
it being so visible, I guess. Gaslighting and love bombing. I will say he does use some of these terms, but he also will say like, we're so quick to throw these words around.
Yeah.
And like, it's not necessarily like every time a guy ghosts you after telling you he likes you, he love bombed you. Like, it's, he just thought he liked you and he changed his mind.
Yeah.
It's like not that deep. But I think these are very relevant to players. The gaslighting, just, they want you to want them, but they don't want you.
Exactly. It's more of like a validation or like a
God, these girls want me.
Yeah.
Because I'm gaslighting them. Congrats, bro.
congrats, bro.
Go off.
Okay.
Oh, there's a bonus spotting a cheater, which you'll have to read to see that, but it's very interesting. Situationships.
Oh, I have a lot to say on that.
You got a lot of notes on her. I underlined a lot.
For situationships.
I think we highlighted the same sections.
Oh my god. For situationships, he goes through like what the public has really seen it as, or how like it's been thrown around, where it's like
one-sided and just like someone's playing you.
the major difference was that he said that people will say that it's like an undefined relationship, like one that people haven't like had the conversation yet of any sort of like, what are we? And instead he says it's this. He says it's a romantic connection where one party is avoiding a relationship while the other hopes that changes.
Yeah.
And it says more specifically, you wanted to be in a relationship only to have the other person provide some reason why they need to continue to define themselves as being single. Situationships isn't something to strive for or even to accept. In a situationship, you are faced with accepting less than what you want with somebody. So in the book, he had like described that it's not something that's just been like undefined. It's been said in different ways that like
it's not just naturally occurring that neither of you are
just
like,
yeah,
defined.
Like clearly you guys are spending a lot of time together. One person is probably like has said something before,
Like at the beginning, I'm
Yeah.
not looking for anything serious.
and so it just becomes this thing where it's very the parent.
That someone should say something.
Exactly.
And it's not going to be the person who's okay with it. Because when you're the person not looking for something romantic, it's like, whatever, I'm getting my cake and eating it too.
Exactly.
But for the person who's like, I'm just in a situation, like, you're literally choosing to be okay with that. So the second that you realize, oh, fuck, I'm in something undefined and I want something different, you have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
From then on, it's not a situationship. Because if they say, I don't want a relationship, you have the choice to either stay and be a situationship, which it's not. It's a just very
you're getting played, girl.
Miscommunicated, lost in the sauce, everything. Or you can leave and find someone that you actually want to be with and they want to be with you.
And that goes back to, like, taking everything for face value. Like, if they tell you they didn't want that, then that's, and then you have a problem with that, then that probably means you should leave.
Yeah.
Something that I really appreciated within, like, this specific topic, he was talking about not being scared to just be vulnerable and telling somebody exactly what you want, even though, like, you have a fear of losing them, because you're gonna lose them anyways at some point. It's just more so when you're expediting the process.
Yeah.
And that might be, like, scary to some people, but I feel like I had always had that same thought of, like, I'm just gonna say it and cleanse myself of these feelings so that I don't have to, like, continue to, like, bring them into whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting.
But, like, setting the boundaries is the hard part.
Yeah.
For me, I guess.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable might be the hard part for someone else.
Yeah. Me was holding my...
It's like, okay,
boundary
so
of,
now
like,
I have to be like, oh, bye, for real.
Exactly. And I definitely didn't do that for a lot of the time. So that is so funny.
Oh, my God. Oh, I think, like, the biggest thing on situationships was his personal experience with his now girlfriend. They were just, like, casually dating for a long time, and then she basically kind of gave him an ultimatum and was just like, I want to be serious with you, and he said no. So then she said, okay, bye. And he was like, damn, like,
that was the girl. That's my girl.
That was hot. One, so there you go, you can be hot while you do it. Two, that made me realize that I really want to be with her. But she said, period, bye. Like, she said, cut my losses. Like, if you're not the one, you're not the one. That's a power move.
I did that power move as well. So,
and here we are.
And here we are 4 years later. I feel like it as much as it feels scary, it's a fucking power move for real though. Because you're like, I'm fucking great, and if you don't actually want this, like, there's something really wrong with you.
I mean, you don't gotta say that, but
but that's how you feel, just to power yourself up. I mean, I definitely just, like, went into the situation and said, like, low-key, I'm, like, in love with you, so, like, if you don't want to be with me, it's, like, up to you.
Dude.
But, like, I'm done fucking, like, doing this back and forth thing. And then, I don't know, I just, like,
dude, I can just see the ego trip.
I fucking knew,
being
though.
Like, yeah, I'm really lovable. Her ass for a minute being like,
but
I have this effect.
I had the same thing. Like, she went away for a while, so then I was like, all right, period.
So I'm gonna keep doing me.
Keep doing me. And then who came fucking back? Because I'm clearly great. So
that I can't.
It can work out for you, is all I'm saying.
Be bold.
The next chapter was a lot about, like, dating and how to, like, flirt and how to, like, approach situations or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot about approaching people in public, because now we are in, like, a different place in life than maybe it was, like, 10 years ago, where apps are, like, the new way to meet people. And he even goes into, like, how you can maybe even do a Zoom date, which I found so, like, nerve-wracking.
He said, just don't invest too much.
He said, don't even go out. Just pull up your computer and have a date.
That's so funny.
It's just so interesting, and I feel like maybe that's kind of, like, a good way to do it. I feel like a lot of people would be reluctant to do that.
I feel like I would want to do it in general.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down, like
actually doing it, you'd be like...
Yeah. I've done it during COVID, and it was...
But that was out of necessity.
Yeah. Sometimes it was fun.
I'm sure it was.
Google Hangouts were not it. Just saying. Zoom was where it was at, or FaceTime.
But something that I took from it that I feel like is just so helpful for specifically men, he gives a tip on how to approach women or, like, people in general. And I think that was like, oh, like, I feel like I didn't know how I wanted to get approached if I were dating. And this made it, like, very, because I agree with it.
Yeah.
When approaching people, you should change your narrative and perspective. The mistake people make was thinking that they deserve some reward for having the guts to be vulnerable. And I feel like that really happens with men. Like, they think that you're supposed to, like, applaud them, basically, for, like, coming to say hi to you.
Oh my God,
Like, oh
He
my God,
likes
thank
me.
you. Like, fuck off. You know, I get compliments all the time.
Dude.
And then he says, everyone loves a sincere compliment that doesn't come with strings attached. And that's the part too, that like, don't expect anything from somebody, from giving a compliment to somebody.
You're not entitled to being liked back.
Literally at all. You're insecure. Anyway.
It's that awkward moment when someone compliments you and you're like, I really like your haircut.
I love your brooch.
I love that necklace on you.
Another part I highlighted that was like, all men should approach it that way.
Yeah.
It says, the more you can make the first words out of your mouth feel like a compliment and not a request, the more likely you can both leave that interaction feeling positive, even if the interest isn't mutual. And that's when I realized that I've had people, he also talks about how a compliment shouldn't be about somebody's appearance or attractiveness. And I feel like that's 100% the best way to flirt.
The best, like, even if you are bullshitting me, don't just come up to me and be like, you're really tall.
You're really
That's
tall.
hot. Or like,
yeah, or
nice
like,
hair color, or whatever the fuck comes out
or
of their
like,
mouth.
I love blondes. Or like, you shut the fuck up. Like, I don't care.
Just say some shit like, you're radiating from across the room.
Oh my God, thank you.
Holy shit. I'm radiating?
Like, that's about me and my personality and how I come across in a room.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Just steal that.
Just use that. Copy and paste. But I just found it really cool that he said that, because I feel like even in moments where I did get a compliment that was like what we just said, if I didn't think the other person was attractive, I was just like, wow, this human is so nice. And that just made my entire day.
Yeah. Flirting in general, though. So I think this is super important information. And, like, I don't know if men just don't know this. It felt very obvious to me.
Same.
So let's just go through them. Make sure your profile is public. Make sure your profile includes pictures of you. Never assume anything about the person in your first message.
To that part, I highlighted the part that says, so make sure not to lead with things like, I think we would be good together, or I bet we would have a lot of fun. It's always better to make people feel like you're curious about them, that you want to know more.
Yeah, when guys are like, you're a mystery, I'm like, shut up.
Shut up, for real? I don't give everything on my profile.
I'm not just exposing myself constantly throughout the internet. Oh my God.
It's also just like more intriguing. You continue the conversation versus if
Right.
somebody comes up to you and they're like,
we would have fun together.
Be like,
what the fuck do you know about me?
You don't even know what I like to do for fun. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? So anyway, continue.
Opening with a question. He is very casual questions too, like, where is that hiking trail? Or like something relevant to whatever they're posting. I think is super important. Yeah. Which, like, you still may never get a response back. Like, never go into anything with entitlement.
Yeah.
You're just saying it to say it. Use the information the platform provides you. I mean, I think that's pretty, like, if you're using dating apps, it's real hard on Bumble to message someone back when they only have photos of themselves and no words. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, what am I supposed to smile, I guess? Like,
like, you're hot. I mean, then
you're hot.
That's the thing, is like, when
that's what they want, I guess. They don't want me to know them. But I feel like
some people don't actually want that, but that's all they're putting out. So then you're like, what you're not getting the response or the things that you want. Put some personality pics because you need something else in there.
Like a meme. I don't know.
Just put a meme in
something. Fuck. Never tease, criticize, or critique.
Oh my God, that part. I'm so sick of that shit. Like, that never fucking works,
just
in my opinion.
Middle school.
It's just like, you're too old for this. It's just like, it makes you look like you're judgmental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you do that, you just look judgmental.
Right.
And that's not cute. So,
no, it's anyway. Not. I underlined, people have too many options and too much access to everyone else to waste their time with someone who opens by being a dick.
That part.
Like, he also touches on dating today. You just have so many options that it feels like not no one's good enough, but it just feels like, well, are they the hottest person that I could find?
Because you kind of want to just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
To see if somebody else comes up.
Or like, well, maybe I don't want to date a guy in music. I want to date a guy in sports. Dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thoughts I have sometimes.
Dude.
I'm like, he's like the artsy type, but this guy's like a sporty type.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'm just saying. Okay. I am criminal to these fuckboy thoughts. Don't try to make a joke or be poetic either.
I thought that one was interesting because I feel like from movies and other shit, we've been taught to like be quirky and like find like a one-liner to like really hit hard or whatever, or like being extra like I'm so romantic and blah blah blah. Yeah. And I find that it's true that like I feel like when conversation just flows or you're just literally asking questions, it's a lot more real and easier and like less nerve-wracking and all of that.
I feel like a joke in person might be working.
That's fine, but that, like when you're first approaching somebody on DMs, like don't
like in a DM, it's like you had time to think about what you're gonna send,
and you said this,
and you sent something about bananas.
Also, you don't know people's like like unless like humor. You guys are like friends outside of, or like you have mutual friends and you've like hung out and like seen each other around, then like whatever, maybe hit a joke. Or you
like vibe with each other's stories. Like you're both like, oh, I could see that we're similar. You know what I mean? Like they post memes or some shit. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. Well, I'm just more so saying like if you kind of relatively know the person and you're shooting your shot in the DM, I get if you want to do that, if you like sort of know this person. But if you're just like randomly shooting a shot, you don't know this fucking person at all.
That might go into the requests.
That might just like, they also might just read it different. Like they might not get it.
They don't always translate the best.
So just ask a normal fucking question.
And being poetic is too much on a first conversation.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Not, and you're allowed 2 attempts at most.
That part. That part. Don't try. I highlighted, do not send a follow-up lecturing them on not responding to you. Literally, if I did not respond to you, that means no.
Like, you want me to engage in a fight to get my attention? Like, what? And I see that shit all the time on Twitter. All the time of guys being like, you're so sexy, like responding to stories, hard eyes, blah, blah, blah.
And the girls don't respond.
And the girls don't respond. And then the guy will be like, well, fuck you then.
Like, you're a slut.
And she's like,
whatever. She's like, dude, I didn't even say shit to you.
Like, 2 seconds ago, you thought I was the hottest thing on earth.
It's so dumb.
Ugh, man.
And this is the next part of it is where he goes into Zoom, and that's its own thing of, you know.
Yeah, you know.
I do think that one part from that I highlighted was we're wasting so much energy being indecisive and non-committal and not wanting to take a chance and actually put time into somebody we don't know.
That's so big facts.
Yeah. I feel like I think it's part of like having a multitude of options.
Yeah.
And also just, like, we feel like everything's at our fingertips, and so, like, you just...
Like, if I commit, I might miss my actual soulmate.
When it's like, why don't you just give it a shot? I don't know.
Yeah, but there's also, like, the flip side of that coin of, like, people who aren't on apps and, like, want to meet in real life or whatever, and the first girl or guy they meet, that's, like...
It's like, oh my god, fate.
Interesting. It's like, holy fuck, we're meant to be. It's forever.
Shooting your shot with a friend was an interesting section. Something that I thought was really interesting was he said that when the minute you have like a crush on a friend, the expiration date for your friendship
it's
is
already
immediate.
No longer a friendship.
Yeah, and I think that's so true.
It's a romantic interest,
because whether or not it goes well or goes wrong, like the friendship exactly how it was before that moment is no longer going to continue to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you guys are friends after this awkward encounter of like, I like you, oh I don't.
Take some time apart and then come back, and
it's still like different. A little bit weird though. It's not weird, different. It's just different. Like, you'll never have the same relationship. You wanted to be in my bed at one point.
Be my husband.
Yeah. But he also just says, like, in that same breath, that's why you should take a chance, because it's already over before it even began.
Like, it's
fine. Know, so take a chance and maybe they like you too.
First date. Fuck that. It's just hard to get to a first date, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Like, there's the suitors, there's the people that are interested, and then there's the opportunity to go, when are we gonna go out? When are we gonna hang out? I don't know, bitch. Send me some ideas.
The biggest mistakes people make on a first date. I thought this was hella interesting.
Yeah.
Most importantly, which I feel like is so true, is just being yourself. What I highlighted says, being yourself on a first date has a lot to do with honestly answering the questions you're being asked. You should be authentic, which also means putting zero thought into whether or not your date will agree with you. 100%.
I feel like you do get caught up in that, like, are they gonna like my answer? What do I think they would say to this?
Yeah. And it's like, why do you even care? Do you even like this person yet? Like, you don't know them, so why does it matter?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like when I hear about like people going on really bad dates, or like the person was just like an asshole, I'm like, thank fucking God that they showed up as themselves.
Truly,
right?
The worst they could have been.
Because thank God, like imagine they save that for later.
I've been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. I think that's like,
why did you do that?
Why can't you just show me that on the first go, or maybe the second?
You got to keep an eye out for the inauthentic people.
I think that was also like eye-opening though, as like me as like a little high schooler of like trying to take on. He also talks about like taking on like trying to be likable or like pretending that you like certain things. I feel like I did that as a child, obviously, because I was in high school.
Yeah.
But like it's so true. I feel like that is kind of a thing that women, at least like in movies, are portrayed to do, and they think it's okay in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like their crush likes this, so then they try to like mold themselves into like,
I'm gonna be a boy's boy.
Yeah, a boy's girl
man's
or whatever.
Man's girl, whatever the fuck that is. Yeah, I think it's really interesting too, just like framing first dates of like going in with the mindset of not being like, are they gonna like me, and just like, this is like a job interview, which is also terrifying and horrible, but like in a way where I still have a choice in this.
Yeah.
This isn't I'm trying to win someone to like me only. Like, do I want to work here? Do I want to be with you?
Yeah. I feel like even now in like whenever I do have like a job interview or have had job interviews, I'm like, okay, I'm also interviewing them. It's not just like, I need this
like
job.
Do I want to work
Do I want to work with you for you? So
something to remember.
So he has a few tips on how to get the most out of your first date. Pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to quickly run through them. 1, ask questions. 2, pay attention to what your date asks you. And that was more specifically on like
what's important to them.
Yeah, based on their questions, you're going to know and understand their expectations, what's important to them, and what they like are thinking about when they're going on like this date with you. Like if somebody asks you about sex and like when's the last time you had sex, then you know this person wants to have sex with you, and that's on top of mind. That's like their priority.
Correct.
Number 3, don't feel obligated to answer any super personal questions.
Fair.
I think that's fair. Number 4 is don't lie. Number 5 is simplify your moments. I think that one's the most important. Is like, I think everybody expects to go on their first date with like the one and feel like this insane
like I
spark.
know they're the one.
And yeah, like just being crazy in love the first time that they are
like
together.
We hung out for 8 hours and then we fucking went to Disneyland the next day. I don't fucking know.
It's just like, remember that, just like keep it light and fun and casual, and just again treat it like an interview where like you're getting to know each other.
Just meeting them.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
He also, I don't know if this is like coming up. What part? But he talks about how a lot of people shy away from a second date. They shy away from a second date because they didn't feel incredible sparks the first time. And I thought that was really interesting. And also at first I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. But then like thinking about it, I feel like that's like the healthiest way to go about things, is like, you don't know somebody from the first hour of talking to them.
You don't even know them after the first 4 years or something. There's still things
like,
you're
there's
uncovering.
still, you're always uncovering. And so giving somebody another chance, as long as it wasn't awful and like unbearable to be around them. If they were like, oh, you know, like that was okay day, like it was decent, we had conversations, it flowed pretty well, go on your second date. Just because there wasn't like, you guys are like pulling at each other and like relax.
Relax, Nicholas Sparks. He does talk shit on the Notebook being toxic as fuck.
And I fucking agree.
Yeah, he's not wrong. So like, I think this is like the flip side of the coin of people who are like in love out the get. Like everything's fate. I think we've all been guilty of this, but like basing your next relationship off your ex.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, they didn't do that. Or they're not like that. Or they don't do whatever. They're not interested in this. So now you're like, well, we're in love then. Like they're a little bit better than my ex. So
now we're in love.
So now this is my
and
person.
they're perfect.
And yeah, nothing is wrong with them.
It's like, what?
It's like, I don't know where you got that.
Something that I highlighted is remembering that everyone is annoying.
Yeah.
I think people like think that relationships are supposed to be like literally so perfect that like nobody is ever angry, upset, or annoyed of each other. And that's like so unrealistic. Like we all do annoying shit, and everybody has pet peeves, and sometimes your partner will do that, and you just gotta work with them on fixing it, or like at least acknowledging that it exists or that it bothers you, because then it's just like unrealistic to think that that's never going to happen. And I think he makes it a huge point. And yeah,
which I think gets into like the non-negotiables
versus pet peeves.
And honestly, you could be on either side of it, of everything is a non-negotiable or it's just a pet peeve.
Right.
Oh, queens, come together and meet in the middle.
Meet in the middle.
It's not just anything. Like, non-negotiable is things that you just like not willing to put up with, and that's okay. And then pet peeves are just slightly annoying things.
Yeah. Things that could change, I guess.
Or you're okay with them not
changing. Yeah.
As annoying as it is.
Like, is it just something that you can live your life with happening?
So, like, his example was that he tends to override a conversation and just talk too much. And that his girlfriend realized it but didn't say anything until he brought it up, I believe, or something.
Yeah.
And then she was like, yeah, you do kind of do that. And from then on, she would like tap him or give him some sort of signal that like, hey, you're doing it
again.
But like, they didn't have this big conversation like, every time that you're doing that, like, I'm gonna make sure you know so you feel embarrassed and like blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a subtle like, hey, you're doing that thing you said you don't want to do anymore. So different than like trust me, there's been moments where you're just like, fuck this and fuck what you're doing, and then it's a problem when it could have just been a pet peeve.
So like, being honest about your non-negotiables is just really just speaking towards like making sure that you hold yourself accountable for the things that you desire and the things that are not okay to continue. I highlighted a part that says, just don't lie to yourself about the situation. Be honest with yourself about what you're trying to do and what you want, and be honest about the effort that it will require and the risk. So it's just really saying, like, an example he gave was like about like a long distance relationship. If you don't want to be long distance and that's like a huge problem, don't allow yourself to be in one, and making sure that you like keep yourself accountable.
Like,
and
being
real
honest with that and not being like, well, we'll try it even though you freaking didn't want to and you're miserable, because then it's just resentment and like
it ends up being sour.
Yeah, there's like subsections that we probably just won't get into because we honestly have episodes on some of this, like judging people for having a lot of exes, like body counts.
I thought an interesting section from that particular thing was prioritize the boundaries you set over the chemistry you feel. I feel like a lot of the time people just tend to really trust in potential, and that's like quote unquote coming from like your chemistry.
Is his potential in the room with us?
It's just like hard to trust chemistry when like the only thing there is potential.
It's the sentence at the bottom, but we have so much chemistry.
I've heard that way too many times, and it's like, girl, chemistry comes and goes. Like,
chemistry, you can have it with a lot of people. Okay.
And I think that he makes it really clear that our egos are what plays a role in like confusing our chemistry, because a lot of the time chemistry is just like based on the validation you feel from somebody else, and like that in itself will confuse whether or not these are real feelings for somebody.
The ego plays a big role.
I highlighted this big ass section that says chemistry is a part of falling in love, but it's just one of many factors. It's also something that can grow over time as you start building an emotional connection. We must be careful not to use it as an excuse to start negotiating with ourselves about the standards and boundaries we work so hard to establish.
Oof, I think that is going to be like the biggest
thing.
Battle right there is like, but I like him. Oh, this one's like how to set a boundary. Say exactly what you want, tell them why, don't say anything, and don't compromise.
Point blank period.
I'm like, hold on a second. Let me pull out my book. Okay, this is what I want.
And then shut up. And if they don't give the answer you want, then you leave. Another concept we talked about was the power of why, and I thought that was really, really important.
That is such a good one.
What I got from this section specifically was really asking why somebody loves you.
Yeah.
And that's not like necessarily offensive. It's just more so like realizing where the words are coming from, and whether this is an infatuation with somebody or if it's actually love, because it's something that... So basically, anyway, he had said that a part that I really liked was he said the person falling in love for the first time is going to have a different point of view on love than the person who is falling in love for the third time, or a person who caught their ex cheating on them, or a player. Some people see love as an intense feeling and others view it as something that builds over time.
Yeah.
And none of that's wrong, but it's just more so like, how do you want to accept love? And like, what is your, which I think like true love, and he also says it in the book, is very something specific, but the power of why in that is more so like if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship with somebody and they say, I love you because you're so amazing. Thank you for being so general and like non-specific, but I need you to tell me what makes you feel that I'm amazing. And like,
yeah. Which I think people are uncomfortable with asking because it's like
challenging another person.
That, and also like being like, give me more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it might come off like.
I like that.
But also, like, if that person loves you genuinely, then it doesn't matter.
They'll keep going and tell you why.
Like, oh my God, okay, these are the reasons. But I do think it is interesting, even if you ask why, and they do have a good reason. Like, let's say, I love that you're so adventurous and you do this for me bring me out of my shell, whatever. I don't know. This is an example. Like, it could still be valid and like, okay, I do see that they love me, but for them, love means that. But love for me means like, I can't see myself with anyone but you, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just, they could mean different things. Like, for you, love means this. So when they say it, you're like, yeah, right. It's been a month.
Yeah.
But they mean it in that way.
Exactly. Yeah, he talks about forgetting what the movies teach us about dating and how Allie and Noah in The Notebook are completely toxic, which we all fucking have known. It's not like huge revelation.
Yeah.
But
it's just, I should rewatch it.
A good reminder.
What's happening there. I highlighted this question that he had because he put some of the questions he's answered on, I think, like Instagram or on the show. One person said, any advice for intentionally single stage of life? And he said, never completely close any doors to rooms you eventually hope to fill. I was like, okay. Period. I think there's just like really good questions in here that people are asking.
Yeah.
Not hookup culture.
Yeah, that was a huge one.
I think the main takeaway is if you're going to participate in hookup culture, the only goal you should have around sex is the first one, which is to have a good time.
Yeah.
So if you're participating in casual hookups and hookup culture, your only goal should be having a good time. Otherwise,
if your intentions are different, yeah, then you need to.
Or you're hurting people.
Right. It's like setting the expectations and the boundaries right from the start.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought an interesting one was like approaching jealousy.
Oh, yeah.
He just basically said that like it all has to obviously stem from insecurities, but it's just more so how you communicate the jealousy in relationships that would either make or break you. And it's like less about being accusatory when something happens that triggers you, because it's normal to be triggered, but it's more so like how you communicate it to your partner so that they understand how you feel and not that you're accusing them of doing something. So like if somebody's talking to someone, or somebody's talking to your partner at a bar and they're flirting, it looks like they're flirting, you get triggered and like you go up to them and you're like, why the fuck are you flirting with them?
Just immediate
like,
assumption.
No, that's an assumption. Maybe they were talking, maybe they didn't see it as flirting, even though the other person was flirting. And so you could just say, hey, you know, like it really, when I saw you guys over there, it made me feel jealous, I think. And like, I don't know what you guys were talking about, but I want to trust you and know that like we love each other. And I hope that like, you know, just coming from a place that's like less about what they're doing and more so of like how the situation made you feel.
And yeah. On the flip side of that, I think it talks about what it does to someone who's constantly being accused of cheating. Or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But it says it's draining to consider yourself trustworthy and mindful of your partner's feelings and yet still have them constantly question you and your motives.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that goes towards like if that's how you're feeling and approaching somebody constantly, I think you got to work on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
He had a lot of tips for moving in together,
yeah,
which I thought were really interesting, and
he gave reasons not to move in. And there's only 2 good reasons to move in, he says.
Which are?
Okay. So first one, you're married, engaged to be married, or have made another long-term commitment to one another. Okay. 2, you're in a committed relationship and you've both mutually decided you want to move in together because you want to spend as much time as possible with one another.
Great reasons.
Seems solid to me. I think the bad reasons are the majority of people moving in together. Testing someone to see what it'd be like. You can't afford it. Finances is probably like a big thing. So, oh my God, it's so much easier if we just live together. You think moving in is a good compromise? Nar.
I can't believe that that's how some people think. It's
like,
so
you don't want to
crazy
marry me, but once we
Why
move
don't
in
we
and
just
I
move-
start living like I'm your wife.
Then you'll marry me. Like,
No,
it's
he's
just-
getting the perks already.
It's so crazy that people think that way.
You're growing apart and it'll force you to face your issues. That sounds like having a baby.
That sounds like, putting a Band-Aid over something.
Your board's a good one.
Wow.
That you got money. Well, I guess not really. Well, maybe not. Maybe you
not.
have less money. You hate deciding or fighting over whose house you spend more time in. Which I think that one's probably huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's so annoying to going back and forth. Let's just live together.
Yeah. If that's like the only reason and not more so like, I just want to I want to spend more time with you.
Mm-hmm. And like, we're committed.
Yeah.
Like that part.
Yeah, that
like, part. We're not just a fling, right?
Next section, I just wrote on a notes. Dump him, ?
For real. I mean, if you're questioning it,
that's it.
You're probably already
said that way
halfway
too many
there.
times.
You're already halfway there, babe.
You checked that already? We already know.
Oh, God.
It's just more so talking about when to end a relationship. He really just goes into saying when the hopes
Yep. The
potential
Mm-hmm.
outweighs the gratitude, like what you're grateful for that they bring to your life, it's time to hit the hay and just really let go of that.
Yeah, he's like not a fan of pro versus con, but more
No.
so gratitude and hopes.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a really good way to decide if you're like on the fence, even though if you're thinking about it, I think it says something.
Well, some people could just be highly anxious, I guess.
Yeah. I also think that something he said is, I try to simplify the problem by not obsessing over the small details, but rather looking at the big picture. And that's, I think, also talking towards like really understanding what it is that you want from life or from a partnership. And if it doesn't meet the overall picture, then that kind of gives you an idea of why you should or shouldn't be in this relationship.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot easier to like, instead of, to generalize versus nitpick.
Yeah.
In that way. Because everyone does some stupid shit sometimes.
Yeah.
I thought this was really interesting. He says that the brain prefers pain to boredom. Like, wow. So that's why.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Wow.
In like scientifically, like when you go through like lows and then you come back, it's kind of like the back and forth of like a toxic situation is like you go through bad parts and then when you have a good part, it gives you like dopamine.
Yeah.
And you become like addicted to feeling the pain because then you know that it comes with some reward.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The last thing I thought was like very much what everyone thinks about when they're in a relationship and they're considering breaking up. I feel like this is what's going through your head constantly. It's time to stop convincing yourself that your current situation is still better than the uncertainties of being single. You have to enforce your boundaries, and in that case, enforcing the boundary means walking away.
Dude.
So, yeah, I think it's just really easy to be like, well, I know what this is, so it's easier to stay versus being single. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know who I'll be or what I'll come across there. At least I know this is what I'm getting with this person. Which is like, no, babe. You want more than that person. We can tell.
We can tell. And I think to that same breath, he talks about like the myth of wasted time. And if people think that if they spent a certain amount of years with somebody or even just like a couple months, they're like,
yep.
I've spent so much time and effort. I don't want to like stop now because it would just go to waste. And that's just like not true. Obviously, like we talk a lot about how you can learn from your mistakes or learn from relationships, even if they're bad or good. Like there's a lot that the time that you spent gave you, and it's not a waste of time.
Yep. His last sentence hit. So he said, ending this bad thing made space for the possibility of new good things, which I think is just like, it's more exciting to think of it that way versus like, I'm losing this person, they're my everything. It's like, no, I'm putting myself first, and now I have the opportunity for anything. Like when you're single, it literally feels like, holy shit, I could move to Europe, I could
like the
fly to wherever, I could meet a man and he takes me here, I could fucking, I don't know what else. It's just, I could change my career and not have to talk to anyone about it. Like, there's just a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities available.
I think also, like, when thinking about it, you, like, just think about how you're, like, detoxing. Like, there's opportunity for you to feel better, you know? Like, literally, that's...
Like, you're gonna feel like shit at first.
Yeah.
I won't lie to you.
I won't lie to you. It's gonna feel fucking awful. But
yeah,
when you're on the other end, it's gonna be like nothing you've ever felt before. The next chapter has to do with...
getting over them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. This one, the section that hit the most, I think, was stop giving yourself cheat days.
Oh, yeah.
And he, like, makes this, like, analogy of, like, being healthy and giving yourself too many, like, cheat days.
Yeah.
And how it kind of just, like, creates an addictive pattern.
And you feel like shit at the end.
You feel like shit at the end. I highlighted this part that I thought was really good. It says, it's time to stop romanticizing how the relationship made you feel in the past and start being honest with how the relationship makes you feel in the present.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that... Does it need more explanation?
None no
needed?
More than that.
Okay. The toxic feeling of, like, if true love exists, we'll make it through no matter what. So, like, you break up and then they want to get back together and your ego is like, fuck yeah, they do. And, you know, it's just like, how many times can someone hurt you before you're like, is this true love?
Yeah.
Or am I just, like, fighting so hard for something that maybe doesn't exist?
Exactly.
Not true love doesn't exist, but, like, in here.
In this situation.
Yeah.
He says, so many of us, when faced with broken hearts, we've done these incredible mental gymnastics to convince ourselves that our situation is different and that it can work out if we can just get back to how things were, no matter how much the other person hurt us.
This part, too, goes with it, but it's a little bit later. How did they take care of your heart after you entrusted them with it?
Yep.
Start investing in people who don't have a track record of breaking your heart.
Period.
Oh my God. Why'd they have to do that to me, Nick?
That part, though. Then he goes into blocking them, and I think that this is beyond just, like, on social media, but just, like...
Stop allowing them in your life.
Stop, like, cut the fucking line.
Yeah.
Like, there should be no communication here. He talks about how being honest with yourself about removing your ability to have access to you, but also you having access to them. Because I feel like a lot of the time, people be stalking.
I don't get that. I don't like stalking exes and then their new partners or, like, whatever. I don't have the guts. I feel like it takes a lot of guts to put myself in a situation to hurt so bad.
Yeah.
For what?
For what? Literally for what? I think, like...
And then not to text your ex a happy birthday
obviously.
Was the ending. Was the ending note there. Like, stop trying to get closure from someone who doesn't want more closure. And, like,
he was
it's
very
just,
fucking blunt.
He's very blunt. Like, if you're texting your ex happy birthday, that's selfish of you. I think he does go into the nuances of, like, who broke each other's heart and whatever, but I think regardless, if you're texting an ex happy birthday, it's just the wrong time to do it. Even if you guys broke up on good terms and it's, like, casual, just, like, why?
Just let them live their life. Like, you're not in theirs anymore, so leave it alone.
Yeah.
He said something that I thought was, like, a good way to really put it. He says, if you want to put a positive spin on it, the fact that this relationship was meaningful is why you shouldn't reach out.
Yeah.
Like, let it be what it was and just leave it at that.
Yep.
He also talks about you can't stay friends with your ex.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. He said most of the time the answer is no. There's just, like, the basis was just saying, like, there's now differences in your relationship that will make your next partner probably uncomfortable.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he says, are they coming to your wedding? Are they going to be at the baptism of your child? Are you going to talk about sex with them?
Yep.
Probably not. They're not your friend. But then you encounter those people who have, like, exes and they're friends with them and you're like, fuck. And then you look jealous and like, all this shit, dude. I hope I don't find my soulmate with some bestie of an ex.
Dude.
I'll lose my shit.
I think that's also, like, kind of interesting for me because I feel like it's something very common in, like, the queer community to be friends with your exes, and I can see how it can get messy, but I also can see how it doesn't really matter. So I think it's more of a hetero thing to be, like, really, like, obsessed on the idea.
It just depends,
see,
I guess.
yeah, I can just see if it, like, I can see how it could bother me, but I feel like I've told, like, Logan, like, reach out to X, Y, and Z because you had, like, a good relationship in music or whatever the fuck, and I feel like if that's something that's fulfilling her life and I genuinely trust her.
It's like not even being friends though. That's like acquaintance. In my, like, because it wouldn't be like we're going to grab lunch once a week, or like I tell you everything about my relationship. You know, like there's still something there that's not like.
No, but I feel like that's different.
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like people become like still really close friends with their exes. And
even talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the defining factor.
Yeah. So, like, if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. And maybe
and don't be lying to yourself either. Don't be fucking lying to yourself.
If it's uncomfortable, girl.
Don't even.
Anyway.
So, one thing is that I thought was interesting is now is the time to stop asking why.
Which is interesting because he tells you to ask why before, but.
Yes. And so basically, at the end of the day, he says, like, you chose to ignore times you could have asked why at the beginning and all these red flags or whatever it was. You wanted to know more, but you didn't want to know more. You wanted to just, like, they're this perfect facade. And you didn't want to ask why.
Yeah.
So now don't.
Don't
be asking for closure and all this bullshit now. They showed you who you were and you didn't ask why.
That hurt. The next part is he talks about your ex coming back. And I thought that was entirely like such an interesting topic. And he talks about how it's not as romantic as you want to believe it is. Mm-hmm. He just talks about how they left because they wanted to leave and have a life without you, kind of a thing. He says it pretty bluntly a couple times, and I will read them. They came to a conclusion that their life would be better without this relationship and you in it. It doesn't mean that they didn't ever really enjoy what they had with you, or that they didn't love you, or that they didn't mean it at the time when they talked about their future with you. But at some point, they came to feel that someone or something else could give them a more fulfilling life than the one that they had with you.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that is interesting to think about for, like, older people. Like, if they were high school sweethearts, broke up, and then, like, fucking 30 years later, date again. I wonder what he thinks about that.
What do you mean?
Like, because they're an ex, and they decided they didn't want to be together or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then 30 years later, or whatever, they decide, I am going to give this another shot. Like, there just has to be time.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be time between to make that person shift their...
Yeah, I think, like, but I think he's talking about, like, the ex
Obviously,
coming back more so immediately.
Like,
but
within
yeah,
the year.
I agree what you're saying. He also talks about how the reasons as to why they left will come back when you're comfortable in that relationship and it sets in. I thought that was really true.
Also, your pain doesn't mean it was special. Really hit.
Girl.
It's like, I must love him a lot because it really hurt.
No, girl.
So, I don't know about that. Did it hurt during the relationship, too?
I think kind of a good, I don't know if, like, this is where I will end in terms of the book, but he says, your pain doesn't mean you should get back together. Mm-hmm. He says at the end of that section, list out ways they made you feel about yourself you didn't like, things that bugged you about them, then list the ways they made you feel that you don't think you could find anywhere else. Do a comparison of grateful versus hopeful. And I think that that's like a really good way to just figure out how you feel about somebody or a situation that you're in. Because if it's just really like, it's kind of like if the hopes are a little bit higher than what you're grateful for of like what they did for you, then I think it's time to, you gotta go.
Cut ties.
Cut ties.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that's generally it. But like, there's just so much in this book that we can't even
get into
because we're already at a freaking long episode. But our final thoughts in glowing hour.
And we are back. So just to finish out our thoughts, we're gonna have this nice little drink,
Kiwi margarita.
We made a kiwi margarita. I can't taste the alcohol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, considering how much alcohol is in here, I am shocked right
Giving
now.
dangerous a little bit.
It does taste like the ones we had on your birthday too, so I'm like,
so good.
The chunky salt really is doing something for me.
It really hits.
So overall thoughts on the book, I think everyone should read. I feel like we said that in the beginning, but I think it just opens your eyes up to things you're doing or experiencing or have experienced. And that alone, I think, is just like really validating. And also just like, I can change my life. I can control the things that are going poorly for me. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like when we first got the books, we had read a couple reviews that were like really angry about how
Yes.
like oversimplified, I guess, these things were. Kind of felt like a married woman wanting to talk about how none of like this is like so common sense. And it's like, sure, it is, but it's still like in theory. Like he says it in the book himself is like, you know, these things sound like very oversimplified and very easy to do, but in practice, they're a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Just kind of how like you can tell somebody else to set a boundary, but when it's your turn,
you're like,
yeah. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think this book is, like you said, a good reminder, just to like that you have control over certain things, and you can't control other people, but you can control how you react and how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And setting up those boundaries. I think there's a lot that you can take from this book, whether you're in a relationship or not.
I just think there's so much good information. Like, I feel like I would definitely highlight as you go, because it's a lot easier to like reference things and move back to them as you move through life, or your friends move through life, and you're like, hold on a minute, like I think I have something specific that we should read, because it's not necessarily like it's almost a guidebook. Like, almost, I know it's a self-help book, whatever, but it's almost a guidebook. Like, if you're dating someone and you see one of these topics of the fucking 25 million that are in here pop up, you can be like, oh, you know what? Like, he's telling me I'm doing it wrong. Like, I'm realizing now I should have done that differently or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just good reminders. Like, maybe you know this shit and it's so easy, blah, blah, blah. But, like, for some people, it's also just not. Like, some of this might be brand new information to a lot of people. And they might be like, oh, I didn't realize all of this. And, like, that should be... Knowledge is power and wealth, and everyone deserves to have it. So,
yeah.
Highly recommend the book and his podcast if you're not really into books or self-help books. The podcast is great as well. Great.
I will say, though, this is a very easy read, and it's very conversational. Like, the way he is on the podcast, he completely writes in that same like context.
Yeah.
There's like cussing and shit in this book, so it's like it's very conversational. It's very easy. It's definitely not like your average like self-help book of
love and dating.
Yeah, I think it's also very straight to the point. Like, he just gives you how he like thinks it is. And again, if you're like a woman dating a man or dating men, I think that this is interesting because it's from a perspective of a man who is honestly very emotionally intelligent, and so
he also talks about experiences of when he wasn't this like knowledgeable and all the shit he did that he fucked up with.
It kind of gives you hope.
Kind of makes you feel like, it kind of makes you feel like, oh, does it just take 10 more years?
It might.
Nick, I'm sorry.
But anyway, good ass book. Definitely will be sharing it with a few people in my life who need it.
We have 2 copies, so let us know if you need some as well.
But anyway, we like the book. Thanks, Nick, for writing it.
You're helping
a
lot of people out here.
But yeah, if you guys had any questions or discussions about what we said, go ahead and just leave it wherever you are. Yeah, thanks for listening to us. I hope you're having like a good first week.
Like second or third week of January.
I hope you're just having a good like beginnings of January.
Yeah.
Stick to your goals. I don't know.
Set those boundaries, baby. We'll see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to subscribe and like or comment and follow us on Instagram.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.